Hey, I'm Kate Lincoln Goldfinch.
I'm Hannah Hembry Bell.
We are Law Moms Out
Moms Out
Loud.
Loud. Woohoo! We
Hey,
are
and
not,
welcome to the first ever Law Moms Lounge. We're just here to hang out.
and we are not in the same place. Isn't that so sad? I'm not over at Kate's home office. I'm in my home office. So you might be saying, like, hey, what's going on? But we weren't able to shoot together today.
Yeah, it's a big old bummer because I got the vid. I feel fine, but my husband and I tested yesterday just to make sure all was good. And as it turns out, we have COVID, but we're so far very mild cases, but that means we can't be together, Hannah.
I know, sad. Well, guys, so today is a little bit of a different show, which is a little bit for us, right? Because to date so far, we've had a guest. And a guest is like, I mean, we can always ask a million questions, but people have been saying, hey, we want to hear more from you guys. We want to talk more to y'all. So, like, okay, well, we'll just get together because what originally brought us to doing this show was Kate and I just having so much fun when we would get together and visit and just chat about what was going on and talk about how we're feeling, what we're thinking and stuff. And I was like, Kate, I really think people would want to join this conversation with us. Like maybe we should make this a thing. So here we are, I guess just the conversation chat part of make it a thing.
Yeah,
So our
and it's going to be a regular thing because we have so many good guests for you guys. It's really exciting. I know I always say that, but I always mean it. And we're every other Friday is when we have guests, and we're already booked out for months. But we also decided we wanted to start doing more regular shows and talking to you guys. So on the Fridays in between the guests, we're going to be doing this lounge and just coming to you with, what's on our minds and our hearts that week.
Well, and it would be, I think our concept is it would be fun, especially once we get into a group, is if we all can kind of show up and just ask anything, say anything. Wasn't that like an old MTV show, like say anything or something like that? Anyway, just ask a law mom if you've got a question, mom, life, law, whatever. We are down to discuss and hopefully can get some interactions. You can also email us at we have a website now. We are for real. It is legitimate. That's lawmomsoutloud.com. So hello at lawmomsoutloud.com. You can email us with thoughts, ideas, things you want to discuss, all of that. Today, obviously, you can do comments and stuff like that. So, but first, Kate, to start, I
Yes.
don't think we can start if you do not tell us a little bit about this thing on the top of your head. What
Oh,
is
my
going
crown.
on?
You mean my crown? So a couple of months ago, I was walking down South Congress, and I love hats. And there was this store called Trovador, a little side street off of South Congress. And I went in, and it had the coolest hats. And the guy, I don't actually know his name, but the guy who owns the shop was like, here's my deal. I do custom hats, and I interview my customers, and I have you tell me about yourself and your life. And I create a custom hat that is an extension of you and what you're all about. And I was like, so of course I do it. And
Yes.
yes, please. And so I help, of course, I also am somewhat of an opinionated gal. So I had ideas about what I wanted on my hat. And I went in and I was like, here's the deal. I want my hat to feel like a ray of sunshine on my head. And I think he accomplished it. I'm going to take it off so you can see my hat here for a minute, but let me just show you everything that's so cool about this hat. So first of all, he hand embroidered my goldfinch logo for my law firm.
Awesome.
There are goldfinch feathers on this hat with this is like one half of an earring set that my husband gave me and I lost. And so we're putting it to good use. And
Oh,
there's this like gold rays of sunshine. And then he put a quote, he burned it into the brim, and it says, when you really want something, the entire universe conspires in helping you achieve it.
oh,
Isn't that
how
amazing?
so fun. One thing about Kate that for those of you who don't know her in real life, that's just such a fun treat about who she is when she's in your life is that she gets such delight and enjoyment out of like stuff. And in some ways, I think we give each other a hard time about like, you shouldn't care about things and stuff like that. And I get that. I mean, obviously, you shouldn't care about things instead of people or like being a good person. But Kate has introduced to me such joy in these special treasures. And so, Kate, does that hat already, does it make you feel a certain way? Like, what does it mean to you?
Well, I really feel like he achieved it. It feels like a crown. It feels like an extension of me. Like I put it on and I'm just like, yeah. And I think, I mean, Hannah, that's so sweet that you say that because, of course, I have always taken delight in outfits and accessories and shopping. And as a kid, it looked and it sounded like materialism. Like I wanted that particular outfit. And of course, I wanted to wear what the other kids were wearing. And that was complicated. And as I've gotten older, I have really started to just accept that this is part of my creativity. I don't do watercolor. I don't play the guitar, but I love to put together a good outfit, and I mean, may not last as long. People may not value that kind of art in the same way, but it really does feel like creative expression for me and like stuff like this.
Well, and I think if we were going to have a topic for this week, oh God, my camera's going crazy. If we were going to have a topic for this week, I think it would be creativity. I know, Kate, just our own experience the last couple of weeks, we've been talking a lot about that and just creativity and play and fun. And that's what I hope we can talk about today. I don't think, as a society, we basically talk about it at all, unless we're talking about arranging a kid's play date and like playing soccer. But thinking about what that means. And we could probably share a little bit, Kate, about what we've been through the last week. I guess I could kick us off.
Please. Yes, you guys have no idea what we're dealing with here with Hannah. I've never known anybody like you, Hannah. Like the way
Oh,
you have these, I don't know what they are, universal inspirations, these ideas that just come to you, and then you see them forth, and they are amazing. And it is such a joy to behold and to be a part of. And this past weekend was beyond, beyond. So tell them about what went down. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. I will say that just to kick it off.
well, it ended up being one of the best experiences of my life too. And I have a lot of takeaways. I swear we could just talk about this the whole time. But Kate and I are members of this business slash law firm owner group. And one thing that's pretty unique about this group, we have a subgroup. It was like 600 people in the big group, and then the subgroup has about 150 people. And we do these calls every single morning where we get to get, I know it's kind of crazy, but we have a work related call at 9 a.m. Central every single morning. And a function of that has been a real cohesive group. That's been the yield. When there's interactions, it's not just like a speech. Someone makes a speech at you, but you interact, you ask questions. And this group was getting together for a conference. We go to a conference once a quarter. Like if you've seen us posting some fun stuff from other places, that's what we've been doing. So we have this conference. And so a few months ago, the way it happens, and I'm going to try to explain how it happens because I bet it happens to more people than they realize. They just don't know how to catch it when it comes. And and Tara was saying, yeah, about our Orlando trip. That's right. So this was the trip to Orlando is what we're talking about. Orlando in July. Bless our hearts. Um, but anyway, so a few months ago, it's most, I guess I would describe it as an inkling or like a hunch or like a bubble pops in my mind. Boom, I was snap whenever I refer to it. And I had this idea of we should do a show at the conference. Like a talent show, because I happen to know certain members in our group are super talented. Like we've got some piano players, some singers, some people in a band, and all this. And I thought, wouldn't that be something if we did a show and these people in this 150-person group could get together and I don't know, like put on a talent show? I wonder if I could get anybody to do that. Okay, so this little idea I'd had, but for me, I know it's really an idea if it persists. So it was just kind of a one-off thought. Okay. But then it was sticking around, and I kept feeling this sort of internal need. Da, 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 da. That's how it feels to me. I got to do this thing. Okay. And I just couldn't make it be quiet. It was, I think I would first describe it as a whisper, but then it's just sort of this like known fact for me. And when we were planning on coming to this conference in Orlando, we talked to the owner of the company and the conference and everything. And we were saying, hey, we kind of had this idea. It's kind of crazy, but we're all getting together on Friday of this 2-3 day conference. On Friday, could we kind of put on a little talent show for the conference? We talked to people in the group. So I did that part. I forgot that. So started to kind of gauge some interest. We have a Facebook group, put some feelers out who would want to do this. And I was not surprised on the one hand. I knew because I had this idea. So I knew I just had this knowing like it was going to work. But we then went to the owner and said, hey, a decent bit of people are kind of interested. I think it could be pretty cool. And he was like, okay, yeah, you can, but you can't do it on that Friday night for the 150 person group. So I was like, oh, bummer. It's like, we want you to do it on Saturday night for the several hundred people group. And it's going to be it just kind of grew and mushroomed from this. I was envisioning this little after dinner theater up at the front of the conference room kind of thing to nope, you're going to put on a whole production and a whole show and all of this.
And when I was on that call happened and we were on speakerphone, and I've learned to just trust Hannah. When she has these ideas, it's a yes. It is a yes for me when Hannah has ideas. But my initial thought was, this sounds like a lot of work, just the idea of a talent show. And then I was on the conference call when the owner of the company was like, let's do it. Let's have it be the big night. And I was just looking at Hannah going, what have you gotten us into? There was part of me that was like, there is so much that goes into this. And it's one of those things that if it's not done well, it could be a total flop. But I don't know, the lesson for me, I already knew this, but for the people who are watching too, if you have someone like a Hannah in your life that has great ideas and you recognize that in them, it's a whole lot of fun to say yes and go along for their rides. That was a definite takeaway for me. But anyway, story's not done.
Yeah, well, so in that moment, this little thing that in my mind, okay, I've got my head around that. I think we can pull this off for this small group, 150 people. I know whenever I'm oh, my eyes kind of got bigger and okay. Well, one of my skills that I've learned along the way in life that I suggest maybe everybody try this on for size is say yes first, figure it out later. So for me, and it's not fully fake it till you make it. So I don't really love that, but it's okay, yes. And no, I don't ask 1,000 questions. I don't have to have everything lined out up front. I see an opportunity and I'm going to take that opportunity. So I saw that opportunity for us and I signed Kate up. I was like, Kate, I'm elbowing her we can do it. I promise it'll be fine. And what ended up coming out of that was we had about 3 weeks lead time, I guess, to put together an entire show. And we recruited people from within the group. We had 2 skits. We had, I guess, total 10, I think it was 10 acts total that we put together. And I think everybody was in the group was a little bit oh yeah, sure, y'all can do it. I mean, I guess it'll be fine. I think they had low to medium expectations for a moderately fine thing. We wouldn't totally embarrass ourselves, but it, y'all, was a smash, just such an entire smash. And people, we had to do a lot of work and I'm saying spare in quotes, every spare minute that Kate and I had for 3 weeks was devoted to pulling this together because we had to deal with sound. We had to do costumes, props, rehearsals, dress rehearsals, getting space. There was so much work that went into it. But, when you're playing and you're having fun and you're in your zone of creativity, it doesn't feel like work. And, y'all have heard that quote, do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. So for a lot of people, putting this show together would seem like a lot of work. But for me, none of it really, there's, a little bit of logistics, but generally speaking, it did not feel like work. It was so much fun. And my big takeaway from just personally doing it was listening to the whisper, Oprah talks about on one of her shows about the universe, God, whatever that means. When we say universe, we just sort of mean what that other realmness, whatever that is to you. Okay. When that that whisper comes, you have to be in a spot to be able to listen. And I was willing to listen and to say yes. And then there were so many other people that caught that energy, because when it was all said and done, probably like 30 people, I don't know, something like that, were involved in making this whole thing happen. And each one of those people had to say yes. Y'all, we put on a talent show, like, think for real, like junior high, high school talent show, like really good, talented people. But in front of several hundred lawyer, entrepreneur, business owners. That is like on the trapeze. Is that a thing called a trapeze? You know, where you're on the tightrope without a safety net.
Oh,
For sure. To put themselves out there and do that. And so I think the power of saying yes is my big takeaway from the experience. And look, you can sit when an opportunity comes, when a whisper comes, and you can analyze it to death. You can make you a T-chart, pros and cons, whatever. And you may talk yourself out of the best possible things that could ever happen to you. And I'm not one for like throw logic to the wind. It's not that you can just like forget it, but sometimes magic isn't the most logical thing. I mean, anybody, if I would have asked them, should I do this? They would have said, are you insane? No, you have no time. You have a law firm. You have 4 kids. You're already, don't even sleep 7 hours at night. You work your tail off. You have no time to put on an entire talent show. And also that's dumb. And everyone's going to laugh and make fun of you, and they're not going to want to do it. But
I talk about that part, Hannah, because I had a lot of that too. Like that everyone's going to laugh and it's just going to be a big failure and an embarrassment, and the like just willingness to put yourself out there. I feel like everybody's talking about that out there in the world. And I don't know if that's just because those are the people that I'm talking to, but I feel like we're having this like societal awakening about just putting ourselves out there. You know how Brene Brown says, like, the people that matter are the ones in the arena. Like, why? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. And, in our group meetings in the morning, it's like, just get on Zoom if you're in your pajamas. Who cares? Like, let's just all go be out there and be who we are and quit worrying so dang much about whether other people are going to judge us. Because if they do, so what? It's their business.
Well, I think that probably what we're hungry for as a society, just as the world, is truth. It's authenticity, because we've just, the pendulum's going to swing from the Instagram model, BS social media vibe that we put out there, and everybody judging their life based on someone else's highlight reel. Yeah. And I think we're over it. I think everybody's tired of that. I mean, I know that's what we try to do on here. We sort of make a plan and we just chat, and I think that what I'm experiencing, and Kate, I think what you're talking about is just this catching need, compulsion for holding on to something real. And when you're putting yourself out there without a safety net, you're in real territory. Yeah. Because look, everybody can do a sure thing. Everybody can do something that the T-chart comes out in the go for it favor. But history favors the bold, or fortune favors the bold, or something like that. But anyway, it's good to be bold. And it's in some ways easy for me to say because I am naturally a bold person. But may I also reach some of you who maybe you don't always feel the most bold. But if you don't do it, then what? You're just going to kind of wish you would have a regret? I don't know.
This is a really interesting comment from Fidel. It says, it's a hard lesson because Fidel's coming from Mexico and feels like the society there is much more judgy. Everyone judges you. You even have to dress up to peek out the window. But do you? Do you? I mean, that's the point. If you don't dress up and then they judge you, so what? And what if you, being bold like that, gives somebody else permission to be who they are? Just being a leader in that, I think, is something that we could all do.
Well, and Raven has the answer for you, Fidel. She says if they had a life, they wouldn't have time to judge. And I think this week, I made a little video because I'm a divorce lawyer in my other day job, I guess. And it was called So What? And so what is what I suggest people use when they're going through the divorce process and they're worried about this or that, or they're thinking about how to spend their money and their resources. If you just keep asking yourself the question, so what, over and over and over again, you get to the root for yourself and you realize, so they're just going to judge me. So what? They don't, well, they're going to think I'm dumb. So what? Do you even care? Do you even know them? Do you even like them? Do they pay your bills? Are they your spouse? Um, are they ultimately, are they you? We need to ask ourselves the question, if we don't make these big decisions, what are we going to do when we're letting ourselves down? That's the so what at the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of not what everybody else is going to think. What am I going to think if I keep on playing small? What am I going to think if I keep on waiting till the time's just right, till like everything's calibrated to do some cool thing? And look, a big old talent show in front of a lot of people, that is a big deal.
Oh,
It is bold. Not everybody has to do that, but this comes up just like in speaking up at work, or in the context of a relationship you're in, of saying, look, this doesn't work. This situation, this thing doesn't work for me anymore. Taking up for yourself and being true to yourself. Um, and I saw that quote. I think we didn't mention out loud that Tara shared with us. To be unafraid of the judgment of others is the greatest freedom we can find.
yeah. Well, and I think, look, let's be honest. Nobody ever is going to get to the point where they don't care what anybody thinks of them. Anybody who says, I don't care what anybody thinks of me, that's gone too far. That's
They're
not
lying. They're lying.
right. We can care. We can decide who's important, and it can matter to us what those people think. But that's different than fearing judgment. That's a very different thing.
Well, and I like, Kate, what you said about the permission slip kind of piece of this, because Kate and I were willing to say, like, there is a world where that could have been a total flop and we could have been totally embarrassed. But I said, Kate, are you going to let me be totally embarrassed and total flop by myself?
I love it
Oh,
when you say
no.
that to me.
No. Like, okay, so we're doing this. I'm doing it. So can you please not let me be a failure by myself? And look, to be honest, there was no part of me that thought that was going to be a failure. But the by us saying yes and putting ourselves out there without a safety net, truly we watched it act as a spark
Yes.
for a fire of other people. We watched that spread. And that permission to live an out loud life, that's why we're called Moms Out Loud, to live a bigger life. When you do it and you have that bravery, you give other people permission to look out their window not dressed up too, Fidel.
Right.
And you give people permission to live their life on purpose. And if we do nothing else with this whole show, whatever it is that we're doing with this whole thing, but to encourage one of y'all to live in your truth and an out loud version of you that says, if they don't like it, so what? We will have done the thing we set out to do.
I love the so what trail. I'm going to do that. So what? So what? And you got some fireworks, some fire, some explosion from Fidel.
Yay, Fidel.
Well, I have something else to say, but you have a thought. I think you're still talking about like putting ourselves out. So the other thing I think that was such a key takeaway from this particular event was the play element. Like there was nothing about that show, that whole job, the work of that whole thing, other than for people to just play and have a good time. And a bunch of lawyers, a bunch of entrepreneurial lawyers who can be very serious and heavy. And everyone had so much fun doing the skits, doing the impressions, and the whole point was just play. And it really made me realize and remember that, as grown-ups, we get a little further and further away from play. And it's like, as a mom of little kids, I often think of play as the kind of play that my kids want to do. It's like my 5-year-old wants to play Uno or make believe or hide and seek, and that's what play is. But this show was grown up play, and It was so much fun, and it is something that I don't think we do as grown-ups naturally because we're busy just getting shit done
Right.
all the time, and it's really important for us grown-ups to do
Well, and that was the persistent theme through so much of the show is people like, oh, I feel like I'm back in high school.
that.
Our friend Matt said, are we going back to camp? And remember how fun that sort of stuff was? Because it's been a long, we just get so busy making a living, right? And it's just such a trite quote, but God, if it's true, that we forget to make a life. And I love to have fun and love to play and be silly and engage in stuff just cuz so much of what we do as lawyer mom supporters, whatever, is the um, focus on achievement and our ambition, right? I think of like I'm gonna pour myself a cup of ambition, and that's all us too. But so, having fun just cause is transformative, and it's also good for business. And here's why: because people left that experience having new ideas,
Mhm.
new creative things that they could do in their job, that they could do at their homes. Play sparks creativity. Creativity sparks uh, things that make money. I mean, practically speaking, and can make your life better. So you can do play just cause and whimsy and fun. You also can do it because it's good for business. Um, so I think one of the things we can take from the experience and that we can share and bring back home to y'all is, are you taking time to play in your own life?
Mhm.
And what does that mean? Because sometimes I swear I have to go look up words in the dictionary that I use all the time, like play. Go have to go look it up. But
Look it
what
up.
does that mean? And to me, that means doing something just because you like it,
Mhm.
just for fun. Do you do anything just for fun?
Yeah, here we go. Engage in activity for enjoyment and recreation rather than a serious or practical purpose.
Yeah.
There-
And for so much of my life, I had kids young. I was always working hard. I was in school forever. My answer to that question would have been flat no. Play. Are you kidding? That's for kids.
Right.
But as I've gotten older and made a little bit more room in my life, I mean, I still got all these children and all the things, but made some room to play. It has been the most comprehensive, enjoyable thing that I've done as an adult. It's just because to be a little silly.
Oh, I can't wait
Um,
to do more of it. I'm like, for everybody at my firm who's watching, I'm thinking about a talent show for us because it was such a blast. And
we'll just go doing talent shows everywhere we go. That's our new thing.
for sure. Field day for Fidel and his grown up friends. Yeah, sports. I mean, I think sports brings that in. I'm thinking about when I was in law school and we had a field day, and one of my friends from law school did that thing, that bat spin, where you put your head down on the bat and you run around it, and then they race each other, and everybody's just going all which ways, and that kind of thing. I think it's easier to wrap it into sports and activity for a lot of people if they're sort of getting back into the play game.
Well, and I think it's good for companies too. For those of us in cultures of like to do it with a firm is a good idea because it shakes off some of the will, like the nerves, the willies, the barriers that go between us. Like if you're doing a three-legged sack race at Fidel's um, field day, you're going to work better together and you're going to laugh and have that connection. And I want to say this about the thing too: it's creativity and play. But the other thing that came out of this uh, experience for us this past weekend was the yes extended to everyone.
Mm,
Everyone was invited.
yeah.
Everyone could have a part in the show if they wanted, partake in the show if they wanted. It was a collective yes.
Mhm.
And we talk a lot about inclusion, and it usually comes up in the DEI, diversity and inclusion space. And that's it too. I just, what I mean here is allowing room for everybody to be involved and true yes inclusion. It changes people. Okay. I think you've seen that. What do you think about that from the
Oh, I
show?
think for sure. And it's interesting because in the same group that we're in, we've been talking about bullying. A few people have been bullied, and I have such a horrible bullying story from my junior high years where essentially one by one, all my friends turned on me, and I had to leave school. I wasn't safe there. And I remember signs in the hallway that people would sign, like petitions about how much they hated me. And it was, I mean, I understand why children can't see beyond that phase of their life and they choose to end their lives, because at that age you think that's going to be your reality forever. And it's not. And I think a lot of us, I'm not alone, a lot of us
Yeah.
have been through bullying and know what it feels like to be left out, to feel left out, that there's this group of people and they're enjoying each other and they're having so much fun and they don't want anything to do with you. And I think the key is to make a commitment whenever you're in a group or a community, or you're leading a group or community, that no one will be excluded in your group, that is just behavior that we don't engage in as grown-ups, because we've all been on the other side of that at some point in our lives, and nobody deserves that, you know.
Well, and in the show, because Kate and I wrote our lines out, like we did, and we kind of ad-libbed, but Kate was very much having us practice because we were a very good team. I'm more like, oh, let's see what happens. But one of the things that I said in the show, upon reflecting, was that, is there a more beautiful phrase in the English language than "I saved you a seat"?
Yeah.
Come sit by me. I've got you know that feeling when you were kind of late running somewhere and you were worried because you know if you get to sit at the table or with your whatever, and you walk up and somebody you maybe don't even know that well says, "Oh, don't worry, Hannah, I saved you a seat."
Yeah.
That relief that you matter and you belong and someone thought of you. And I want to be more of that kind of person, the "I saved you a seat" person.
I don't know how you could be.
Oh, well, I mean, I certainly want to keep doing it, right, and encourage others to. It's just this idea of you matter and what you have to contribute is important. And it's in a way that I don't know. I just feel like we give such lip service. It's one of those words, inclusion, that you say so much that it almost is like what am I even saying anymore? But I saw it up close. Is just a true, authentic yes to people around us, and to call them in. Oh, Christy, oh, that's so
Sweet.
sweet.
Well, and I think,
Well, and let's read it in case somebody's listening later.
okay.
So
Oh, that's right.
Christy says, "Hannah, you're so good. This is such a sweet compliment." Christy is such a sweet, sweet person. I love to have you wherever I am, Christy. So thank you for saying that.
Oh, and Tara says, love that. You can sit with us.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what Law Moms is, Kate, right? Like this is because people ask us, y'all, and I know some of y'all posting on here saying things are not law moms. Like you're not lawyers with kids. And people are like, well, isn't it really for everyone? Look, you're invited. If you are interested in what these two yahoos in Austin have to say, you are invited to our table.
Yes. Yes. And that's what it's for the people out there. I mean, we've all been in organizations where it's lip service, or it's just ignored, this idea of inclusion and gossip and exclusivity and cliquishness. Are people watching out for that, or are they not? And in the groups where people are not watching out for that, everybody loses, even the in crowd. But then if you've ever had that experience where you've been in a group where the leadership of that group is like, we're not doing that. Everybody here is included. We don't talk behind people's backs. Everybody can sit at the table. There is something that happens to the collective where everybody just feels safer and more comfy and more loved. And that's the commitment that I have in all of the groups that I belong to, in particular the ones where I have a leadership role, because everybody deserves that, and I know you feel the same way, Hannah.
Yeah, and I like what Tara said about you can sit with us, because I think if you're looking and you have a "you can't sit with us" attitude, you got to ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
It's because you want to feel better than somebody else, because you have something that you can exclude someone from. So you're more important, smarter, better, more popular, whatever. So flip that around and make that a "you can sit with us" and watch your, I don't know, reach, your impact, and just your freaking enjoyment of life. You don't know what you don't know. If you're a "you can't sit with us" person, what if the person who's going to sit down, what's going to change your whole world, offer you a job opportunity, be your next spouse, partner, whatever, friend? So just saying yes. That's our big takeaway from our big weekend. Say yes, not only to opportunities, but say yes to each other. And we invite you to do that with us, with Law Moms. That's definitely what we're trying to do, is say yes to opportunities and say yes to each other. So, Kate, any other things you think from the weekend, your
Well,
takeaways?
just thank you, Hannah. Thank you for having such a great idea. I'm so, so glad you had it and we did it. It was a blast.
I'm excited because Law Moms, we get to just have ideas all the time, and we've got some really cool ones coming up.
Yeah, we do. Retreats, roller skate parties, Travis County Women Lawyers collaboration.
Oh yeah, we got all kind of stuff. So now, Kate, one of the things I think we're going to talk about too is this week. Oh, supporting the Yes movement. Laura Bly, bring in the heat. Of course, it is yes. Yeah, and Laura is a friend of ours, and she said that yes is my magic word.
Mm,
And when I think about that, when I say yes, I mean it to my all of my body. It means yes. And I think that's how I'm able to, I don't know, make a lot of things happen is to say yes. So I don't know, y'all can have it, can be your magic word too. If
mm.
you just start, and if it doesn't feel magic when you do it, just practice. It can be a muscle. And I think your reach in your life. Look, because and I've said that, I swear to God, I've probably said exactly this, but you only get one shot at this. This is it. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is not a, well, next time I'll do it a certain way. This is not a there's no do-overs at being a human alive. And Katie and Katie, we're around 40-ish. I'm a little bit under for the moment, but half of it's about over.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who are interested in watching the show is about half over. So do you have everything you've wanted in life?
Right.
If you don't, what do you want in the next half of your life? And what are you going to do to get it? And I bet you the answer starts with saying yes.
Yeah. A big part of that question for me, there's that Confucius quote I've been talking about lately about you have two lives, and the second one begins when you realize you have just one. And so much of my personal growth and transformation has occurred after turning 40. I'm 42, and it coincided with the pandemic and and a lot of this personal development work I've been doing with Nagel and all of that. But another thing that changed for me was that I stopped drinking alcohol. And it's been about a year and a half, and it's really related to this one life issue. It's like this one life, I got this one body that I'm carrying through this life, and am I going to take care of this vessel that I'm in and do the best for it every day so that every day is the best it can be, or am I going to mess around and do things that don't really align with what I say are my priorities in life? And I've been thinking a lot about that lately. Like, that is one of the biggest changes for me about turning 40 and saying yes in this one life I'm living, is making the right choices for me physically.
Well, and that's just right. Saying yes to, and I'm going to say unorthodox in quotes, Kate, right? Like just a different path than a lot of people take on the sober path. And that was a key for you. And you don't have to be sober to have a good life, of course, but it was, I know, essential for you. So um, with that, I think I'd like to change gears a little bit. And one of the things that we've both been doing too is doing a decent bit of reading. And what I read and consume with my eyes really has an impact on me and has the power to change my whole week. So I don't know, Kate, are you reading any books, any little things this week?
I'm always reading something. I got a lot of things on my Kindle. So I've been lately reading the Jen Sincero book series, the You Are a Badass book series. And I started with You Are a Badass at Making Money. And I just really love the language that she used. And so I started reading her main first book, You Are a Badass. And I just pulled up this. I was like, I knew you were going to ask about books. And so I was thinking about, okay, what's the last thing I highlighted in this book? Because that's when I know it's a good book, is I'm just highlighting all the way through it. And so I want to read this to you from this, what I read yesterday. But it's like item number 5 in some list of how to live a badass life. Don't get caught up in the thunderbolt hype. Let yourself off the hook if you don't have that one big perfect thing that you know you came here to do. Same goes for finding the one big perfect soulmate, by the way. And feel good about the fact that you'll probably fulfill several callings throughout your life and possibly relationships. If you think about it, it makes more sense to evolve as you age anyway. When I think about who I was in my 20s compared to who I am now, I can't imagine anything more unappealing than going after some of the things that resonated with me back then. Follow what feels good in the moment, every moment, and it will lead you through a most excellent life.
Wow. What is your big takeaway from that, Kate?
Well, I mean, just even recently, it's like my identity. Yeah, I've talked to you about this, Hannah. Like my identity has sort of a lag time behind my reality. I was a college dropout for a long time, and it was many years of being a lawyer before I stopped feeling like a college dropout. And I've been, an immigration lawyer and an immigration activist, and that's been my identity and my calling. And 10 years ago, I would have told you that's the only thing I'm going to do for the rest of my career. And then we started talking about this law moms thing. We started thinking about law moms living a life out loud and everybody living this life out loud. And that's a bigger message, but that's not the calling that I had assigned myself 10 years ago. And so how does that fit in? And I think I highlighted that because it's like, whatever you're feeling and passionate about and is lighting your fire and igniting you in this moment, that's what you should be doing. It doesn't matter if it fits into some decision that you made about who you are or who you were going to be last year or yesterday. I just think it's okay to just follow our passion. And there's a question from Law Student's Nightmare. He always bringing the good question. I don't know who you are, by the way. You're always bringing the good questions, and you're like this mystery anonymous person. But this person asked, "Do you think law students don't think out or plan out their future? I feel like many graduates feel empty or lost once they belong to a firm or a company, and sometimes undermine their own abilities." And I think yes, absolutely, this is true. Law students do this because you get into law school and you think, oh, I'm supposed to go big law and I'm going to go to on-campus interviews and I'm going to follow that pre-paved pathway, or I'm going to go, into public interest work and I'm going to follow that pathway. And the truth is, as a 15-year lawyer, if I scan all my buddies from law school, we're doing like 1,000 different things. There is not a clear set pathway, and the people who are the happiest and the most fulfilled are the ones who followed what they cared about, not what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, I think you got to give yourself a bit of a break on that question. Like, what is we're using like all the trite quotes today. I guess it's all because they're all true, but like, we plan and God laughs.
Yeah.
Idea. So I think, you've got to have some sort of a plan. But more than anything, I would suggest law students and college students and new graduates and things, what you do is plan to learn about yourself. Self-discovery. Good God Almighty, if I'd have known that a long time ago. And it sounds like something that, like, in the movies they talk about, I have to go find myself. I would just be like, what does that even mean? Find myself. I have no idea. And I think what it is taking some time to listen to your own heart. And that's, I think, what you're talking about. Listen to that own passion that's inside of you, because you can follow that as a law student, of course, a college student, and try to it's going to go this, and this kind of an order. I think you'll make a mistake if you do that, because you're going to pigeonhole yourself. So listening to your heart, getting to know yourself. I didn't. I got married at 21 and having children at 23, and only really pretty recently started really trying to get to know who I really am. So best advice I can give y'all is start that journey when you're 20 instead of pushing 40. Would be a good plan.
Well, and celebrating the shit you don't love. Like that is as valuable as the stuff you find that you do love. I often think back to my time in law school, and I tried all these different internships out. And I thought I had been in Democratic campaign consulting in college, and I was really, really was into politics. And I thought for sure I was going to have some sort of political something or other. And I interned at the Capitol in law school, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like the way people talk to each other, and there's some unspoken other conversation happening. I don't feel like anybody's really talking about what's on their heart. And this is not the place for me to spend my days in my life. And in retrospect, that was a really valuable little mini internship. That taught me as much as the stuff I did find out that I loved. And so celebrating mistakes, celebrating missteps, celebrating the stuff that doesn't serve you, because that is valuable too.
Well, and Kate, it's almost like we planned this for real. The thing that I want to share about that I was reading this week is directly on point. So if y'all kind of indulge me, it's this book called "I Am Her Tribe," and the author is Danielle Dobby. I saw this on Instagram or something. Somebody was quoting this person. I thought I'm gonna read this because I am a poet lover. I'm a poet person. I like poetry. I even have a poetry shelf now. I guess y'all can't really see, like up on, I won't even, whatever, it's up there kind of in the case up that way. And I reading poetry is something I've learned about myself over the years, that it really gives me a lot of joy. And so I'm going to read this to y'all. It's called A Hymnal to My Younger Self. And it's the advice I would give. I wish I would have known. And I'm even talking to my younger self that's still within me. So one day you will awake with the craving for self-discovery. When this knowing arrives, you feel the pull to go out into the world. My hope for you is that your story begins on the cool wood of your kitchen floor. You, bare-skinned, sitting down, both eyes closed, one hand on heart, the other resting on your soft belly. This connection right here is the wisdom of the women and men before you, and the tender infinite living within you. And if there is ever a time you feel lost outside of yourself, these guiding forces will always bring you back home. My hope for you is that you trust the teaching of what brings discomfort. That when you feel as if you are at the cusp of breaking open out into the wild of the unknown, you step forward with both feet planted in your curiosity and wonder. My hope for you is that you greet your reflection with kind eyes, that you never look to someone else for your belonging, always moving from a space of worthiness, longing for nothing of addition or subtraction. My hope for you is that you never stifle in your power. May you always carry the belief that your words matter, unafraid to sing your truth at the tip top of your lungs. My hope for you is that you honor each moment in its entirety, that you choose your feeling over being numb and disconnected, owning every curve of life's light and shadow sensations. For you understand that in the present moment is where your happiness is found. This is my hope for you.
Ugh. Isn't that everything? There's everything wrapped in that one poem.
This little book, y'all need to go get this. Every page is basically that good. But if that return, that self-worth, that return to wonder and creativity, may we all carry that forward. I wish someone could have grabbed my shoulders and explained it to me in a way I would have listened, that I would have known that back then, when I was a law student, when I was a kid, to say, your words matter. Don't look to anyone else to add or to subtract, just as you are. And if you love and allow someone to be all that they are, there is no more outrageous way to love them. And if you do that for them, you can change the world, because then they'll do that for someone else. And isn't that what we all want? To belong, to matter, to be seen as who we are, and still say yes. Mm-hmm. So it's this theme this week. That book, I'm telling y'all need to go out right now. I mean, I'm sure we can put it in some kind of a link to get to everybody to get it. But in this vein, Kate, I think we'll do a look ahead for the next couple weeks till we're back on the lounge. This is kind
I
of
love
fun.
the lounge. What do y'all think of the lounge? But before we give a
Yeah.
look at it, I'm excited about next week's guests. I just want to read some of the comments that we got while you were reading that poem, Hannah. Fidel said, "Thank you both for being in my life. I'm always learning from Kate and now from you too, Hannah."
Oh.
Tara said, "Wow, that is powerful. Chills." Paula, I love that. And Laura says, "Beautiful." It really was. Thank you for sharing that with us, Hannah. And yeah, we'll send a link to that book on the comment.
Well, and to this end, for me, y'all, is this idea of a figuring out what it is that we want in order to honor ourselves and listen to ourselves and not add and not subtract. And this, I mean, y'all know every episode, if you've listened to me even a minute, I'm always like, but how do we figure out what we want? How do we know? I ask everybody. Ah. Well, Kate and I had the opportunity with this show to meet and work with this incredible embodiment coach, former Beyonce backup dancer named Lily Shepard Carter. She's a future guest of the show. And she has this amazing work where she connects high achieving women with movement and with their bodies. And so I'm a member of her Facebook group, and y'all should all go join it. I think it's called Pleasure Principles for Driven Women. I think that's what it's called. And Lily was talking about, she'd asked the question to the group, so far this summer, basically, have you taken up space for yourself and what you want or needed in all these ways, different ways? And I said, I have not. And she said, well, why? And we got to talk, and it was like, I think really ultimately, number one, asking the question, well, how do I know what I want? What if I don't know what I want? And number two, if I do figure that out, what if I don't get it? Like, what do I do with that? And she was saying about figure out what you want. And she said, well, write it out. And I'm like, but really, how do you figure it out? Do you have any guidance or how to determine? So this is our 2-week experiment. I propose that we all do, that we join in and do this together. So what Lily tells us to do. Okay, Kate, are you ready? You're going to take notes here.
Yeah, well, and this is where Hannah tells us something and we say yes, and it turns out great.
Yes, let's do it. And then we can talk about regroup and talk about it.
Ready.
So, and Lily, I think is going to help us debrief and help us process through this. So, number one, you need to give yourself at least 2 hours free of any social media or any media, I think, at all, like your phone, TV, everything.
Okay.
Number two, in that space, do something active in solitude. So you're going to walk, run, bike, something like that.
Okay.
Then you're going to come home, take a shower. You're going to make a ritual out of it. Put on like relaxing music that you love. Use all your favorite shower stuff. Take time with your body as you wash and moisturize. Just get really sort of connected here. Then I don't know what number I'm on, but anyway, next, you get still and quiet somewhere in your home where there's no distraction. Might be harder for some of us than others. So maybe this would be a good evening activity for a lot of us. Then you're going to light a candle, gaze at the flame, take a few deep breaths. I'm going to take one right now. And ask yourself the question, what do I want? Your environment and the state of your nervous system, when you ask this question, is going to play a big role in you getting to the truth of the matter. So it's basically getting still, alone, quiet, in touch with who you are. We're going to light a candle and figure out what we want.
Yeah.
I hope that is the way. I mean, it sounds nice either way. It sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
But I'd like to know what's going to come up when I'm like staring. It feels very witchy. I'm going to go stare into a flame and see what it tells me. That sounds fun.
So this is going to be in 2 weeks. We're going to debrief on this, and we'll make sure and post the steps for y'all leading up to it. And I'm looking forward to doing it. I'm looking forward to debriefing on it. And next week's guest, we're super excited. We're going to have Laura Kelly. She has a podcast show called The Joyful Attorney. So I'm really excited to have her on. So
super excited. So these are our takeaways, our week. Like it has been a big time for me and Kate the last 6 weeks in particular, but this past week. Thank you all for indulging us and listening. I hope that it was helpful. And I love learning about what we're reading. I know I'm going to look forward to that. We want to hear about what y'all are reading. If you have suggestions, books, we could do a book club together. I mean, the sky's just the limit. So tell us more about on Law Moms Loud, what you might want to discuss, hear about, think about, digest. We would love to do that alongside you. And until then, just let's practice saying some more yeses.
There we go. Love you guys. See you soon.
Heart, heart, heart.